Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're gonna give the people in the RSVP list a minute or two to join. But welcome to Intro to Product Management by General Assembly for the 2024 Google Summer Academy. Let's make sure you guys are in the right place. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Let's give everyone just a minute or two. And while we get started, why don't we interact a bit on the chat? Why don't you guys let us know where in the world you are? And I'll get us started. So for me, base is Austin, but right now in Chihuahua, Mexico. Same weather. We're struggling with the heat. Switzerland, awesome. Austria, all right. Hot and sunny. That sounds like a good day. All right. London, yes. I mean, this is how business is done today, right? Globally, different time zones. And you guys will see when we start the course today, the class, that we'll be talking about what the day-to-day of a product manager is. We'll do an exercise. This is going to be very hands-on, very practical, because we aim to simulate how real work life is in a class environment. But we want to make it the closest we can make it to what real work is, which is always best to learn. Oh, audio going in and out. Give me a second. Closing a few tabs. Can you guys hear me better there? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And no worries if it breaks up a bit again. I'll do the intros. I'll hand it off to Mark, who is your expert instructor today. And then I'll join you guys in the closing for a few recommendations, tips, and insights, and next steps. And yes, there is going to be a recording. We are recording this. It's going to be on the Google Zurich YouTube channel. You'll get the link via email. So anything you want to recap, you'll have it there. And you'll also have a copy of the slides for recapping the exercises, the content. You want to take notes, go for it, but you will have the copy of the slides. Oh, there it is. There you have the link. All right, let's get us started. Welcome to Intro to Product Management. About GA, so General Assembly, we've been around for about 11, 12 years, and we specialize in live tech skills training. That is our thing. We know what we're doing. We've graduated more than 100,000 people worldwide. You can go to our LinkedIn page and even check out where our grads are working. And being part of the Adecco group means that we get a pulse of what hiring managers are looking for. We're very close to what the most in-demand skills are at any time. To give you guys an example of what that means, when Gen AI came out, we made the decision to include Gen AI in some of our boot camps and longer format courses because it's now part of the curriculum. And having that idea of what hiring managers look for helps us do the live trainings in the least amount of time possible, but with enough training that you guys get the right skills for the right time. Let's move to the next slide, please, so we can welcome Mark. Mark's been around with GA for a really good long time. He's seen it all. He's seen the changes. He knows the different training techniques. He's been with us for 9 years, and he also took a GA course. So, guys, you have a great presenter today. You have someone who has learned tech skills at GA, who teaches tech skills at GA, and who lives and breathes at different companies you see here in startups, big companies, different type of work environments and cultures. So make the most of your time today here with Mark. And let's agree on one thing for the interaction. For questions, you're welcome to you write your questions at any time in the chat. I will be saving a copy of those questions for the end. And if for some reason Mark sees that the question is very relevant to what we're talking about and it makes sense to jump in and answer it, he'll go for it. But I'll keep a record of all the questions. So please ask your questions, interact in the chat. And with that, I'll pass it over to Mark to get us started. Wish you all the best.
There we go. There's my first reaction, Eli. Thank you for the warm introduction. And hey, everyone. So I saw one comment came through already from Blue Marble saying it's unfair about Rio. And yeah, definitely recommend Rio de Janeiro. So today I'm based in London, and that's where I teach for General Assembly most of the time. As Eli said, my name's Mark. And yeah, I teach General Assembly product management courses, which I've been doing for the last 9 years. And the reason why I do that is because I just love talking about products. So I'm super excited to be here with you all today. The way that we usually work with General Assembly courses is proper interactive, lots of discussion, lots of breakout sessions. So we're going to try and replicate that today, even though we've got a few more people, I think 66 at the moment. If anyone's got a question, like Eli says, pop it in the chat, but also, feel free to just stick your hand up and if we can stop the session and have a little discussion around what we're doing, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, introduction to what I do on a day-to-day basis. I am a product manager. My current title, my current job is head of product and engineering for a company called Everpress, which is a global e-commerce fashion marketplace. We allow designers to sell their handiwork, their designs onto guys, and it can be anyone from sort of bedroom designers all the way up to big global brands and bands and big designers. So go and check us out at some point. Previously to that, I've worked for a number of enterprise organizations like HSBC, ITV, which is a TV company over here in the UK, and some consultancy services as well, like Ernst & Young, Amazon Web Services. So that's a little bit about me. On the agenda today, we are going to do an introduction to product management. We're going to talk about what product management is and talk about what we do as product managers. We'll have a little break, and then after that, we're going to do an exercise, as we like to do at General Assembly, where we're going to talk about how we run user interviews to find out our users' needs and requirements. And then right at the end, there'll be next steps and Q&A. If we run over, I'm happy to stay later to answer some Qs. That's all good. And there'll be plenty of opportunities to join future GA sessions as well to that regard. So just keep in mind, as it says here, the beginner level overview. So, we're not talking the rocket science of product management today. If there are any NASA level product managers here, which I'm sure there may be, it's beginner level, but we'll have time for Q&A. We're recording the session, so bear that in mind when you're on mic, and you'll receive that recording 7 days after filling out the survey. So let's dive in. What is product management anyway? For me, when we're talking about what is product management, the best start is to think about what is actually a product, right? So use the reactions that we've got there that are in front of you and tell me which are products. Hit the heart if you think mobile app for ordering groceries. Yeah, we've got some of that. Got a good selection coming through. I've got some thumbs. And yeah, who's that who said all in the chat? It's everything, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, all of these things are products, right? Nice, easy one to start off with. But the point is that a product can really be anything, right? A lot of the time when we're talking about product management, the thing that's in people's minds is, it's basically mobile apps, like software products. And that really is where kind of product management in the guise that we teach it and we know it today started off with 20 odd years ago. But the mechanisms and the disciplines around product management can really be applied to anything, whether that's, a physical product like an electrical scooter, so much more so now that we have things like telematics that can give us live data feedback, whether it's a service like a mortgage brokering service, or even here, something that connects two pieces of software together, that is a product. And if you're working for a big tech company like Google or Facebook or Amazon, it may be that you're in charge of a whole app or something like that as your product. But it may mean you're just looking after a constituent part of what we usually think of as a product. Maybe even just like a little button or something like that, or something behind the scenes like an API, but that is your product, right? So it can be anything at all, really, all of the above. But it's really difficult to actually get definitions of what is product management. And I'm presuming that most people are here today because they've got an idea that maybe they want to become a product manager or one of the related roles that we have around product management. And they're considering whether they should launch a career in that. And they might have typed in what is product management to one of these market leading search engines like the one we have today and come across something like this. Product management is an organizational life cycle function within a company, dealing with the planning, forecasting, and production or marketing of a product. It's kind of boring, right? Definitely not inspiring. And the reason for that is that we have these definitions that, are kind of a bit textbook and a bit boring, is because actually it's really difficult. I'm not supposed to be taking this as an insult, I think. I don't think that it means that as product managers, we're thin-skinned and unable to accept constructive challenges. In fact, those are critical qualities for a product manager, or, to be able to do that. What it means is that as product managers, we're a diverse bunch. People who call themselves product managers do things very differently from company to company, from organization to organization. The way that we work on different products, the different types of teams, different company structures. Sometimes it's so different that it seems like this one umbrella discipline or job really doesn't apply to all of us. But there are commonalities wherever you do product. And I think one of those is that even though we're diverse, we have common goals as product managers. Wherever we are as a product manager, our objectives are generally to balance our goals with constraints. User needs, business goals, and technical constraints. This is kind of like Holy Trinity. And as a product manager, we need to be thinking and be building solutions that marry up these three goals and constraints. When we're talking from a user needs perspective, we're thinking about desirability. And really, the need is the critical point there. When we're talking about business goals, we're talking about viability from a company perspective. Should we do this thing? Does it align with the strategy that we've got for our businesses and our business objectives? Is it something that we can do when we're building this product to answer this user need in a way that is constructive for our company, makes sense economically, and something that's maintainable from a business perspective moving forward? And on the technical side of things, whether that is the fact that we're building software or we're building physical products or services, we always need to think about the feasibility. And again, the critical part here from a technical feasibility perspective is not even really can we build it? It's can we continue to maintain it after we've built it? And then can we scale it, and can we continue to maintain it at scale to hit that business goal objective? And to be successful at product management, we really do need to get the middle of all of these things correct. And when we do marry up these three things, we hit the holy grail for product managers, which is product market fit. This is the thing that we're striving towards, and the thing that I think is common between all product managers. Fred Wilson from Union Square Ventures. So Fred Wilson, Union Square Ventures, they are one of the VC backers behind some enormous companies like Twitter and Etsy and Squarespace. I think certainly Square, maybe not Squarespace, lots and lots of things. Brad Wilson says, getting product right means finding product market fit. It doesn't mean launching a product. It means getting to the point where your market accepts your product and wants more of it. The key message behind that is iteration. So as product managers, we're not looking for a big bang approach where we build some sort of product or some sort of service and release it into the market and forget about it. Critically, what we try to do is we try to release something as quickly as we can and then continuously improve that product and iterate upon it until we get the metrics that show us that we've hit these objectives. A great place to go and look if you want more product information after this course is Lenny's newsletter, which is a great, Lenny's like a celebrity in the product world, and he releases podcasts. He used to start off with just a newsletter. Now there's podcasts that go out anywhere where you can find podcasts, talking to some of the biggest names in product management, and Lenny himself has been involved in building some great products. Lenny says that true product market fit, we've found a product that people want. We can find and keep people sustainably, and we can make a profit delivering this product to people at scale. So let's talk about some of the people that we work with as product managers. We've already seen that we'll work with many people around the organization. And as product managers, we're never in one place at one time, really, but we do work in product teams. And this is from a software perspective, but this is a very typical team that you'll find that is like your HQ as a product manager. You as the product manager, you're talking about, is it valuable to build this thing? Again, from that user perspective and from the business perspective. You might work with someone called a business analyst who is looking into the data and looking into the current structures of the company that we're working with, or perhaps some companies that we want to work with who are going to look at viability more from that technical perspective. You might work with people like user UX, as we call them, user experience professionals, who are going to focus on that user front, the usability. Thereafter, we'll have a team of developers led by a lead engineer who are going to build the things that we're hypothesizing are going to find the solution to that customer problem. Again, they're looking at feasibility, but also how can they get the work done in the most minimal way, in the most effective way, so that we can meet that criteria about that ongoing scalability and maintainability from a technical perspective. And then we might work with some project managers as well, sometimes called a scrum master, or if we're using this process called Scrum that we use a lot to build products, which is just a framework for how we organize ourselves, commonly used. They're going to be the people that help the team to unblock the requirements. I think we might have had a first question come in. It's a good time to maybe take a look. If this is what PMs do, Ryan Parkin, what is the strategic marketing role then? Value is the main concept of marketing. Yeah, and this is it, right? So basically, there's lots of crossover between product and other functions around the business, certainly marketing. And product marketers is a specialist role within some organizations, where it's kind of like a hybrid role in between product and marketing teams. And the critical thing is actually that even though we might call this the product team, when we work for product-focused and product-led organizations, the mechanisms and disciplines and mindsets should be spread throughout the whole company, throughout the whole organization, rather than just for people whose job title is product manager. But you as the product manager have the responsibility for instilling those values into the thing that you're building and the people that you're working directly with, as well as bringing those stakeholders that could be marketing, could be finance, could be legal, could be anyone else, into that realm, showing the vision, right? Certainly marketing are people we work with closely when we're in specialist roles, like a growth product management role, and we might have big interactions with the marketing team. So yeah, great question, right? Lots of people come and they say, what's the difference between a product manager and a project manager? Well, project management is not a dirty word, although you speak to a lot of product managers, and if you accidentally call them a project manager, they might give you a dirty look. But actually, there's a value in both things. Product managers are primarily focused on the value of what we're doing and maintaining that product market fit through continually assessing and readdressing the value proposition. Whereas project managers are here to make sure that we hit deadlines, right? The way that we get things done on time, the fact that we can orchestrate the work that we're doing with the other product teams and the other organizations and the other departments throughout our organization to make sure that we're aligned. Now, going back to what we said about how product is very different in different roles, you might actually find yourself doing elements of project management as a product manager, and you might find yourself doing elements of product management as a project manager. The critical thing is that we should think about these things as roles, and that sometimes we have to wear a product management hat, and sometimes we have to wear a project management hat, especially if we're in smaller organizations like startups, where we don't necessarily have the numbers of people available to have special people, people with special skills in individual roles. We have to do multiple roles ourselves. But think of it as a function rather than necessarily an individual. Let's just go back to the questions. So, Blue Marble, hey Blue, feasibility, not all is IT only. What about the business side? Yeah, exactly. Very, very correct. Yeah. So feasibility, I see that as kind of the same as viability as well, right? It's like, lots of times we have to be honest with ourselves and we have to think about, is this something that's actually possible to do? Now, the great thing about the product management methodologies that we teach in terms of agile product management is that we give ourselves hypotheses that we go out and test. So if we have an idea and a hypothesis that something might be feasible, we're not going to wait until we get too far down the line before we've tested that assumption, and then we've got the answer on whether we should push forward and spend more of our resource on that. But certainly, yeah, you're correct. Feasibility is definitely something from a business goals perspective and a technical perspective. So, where are we? How are we doing for time? 24. It's good. We're going to have a break in 15 minutes. So we're pretty much on time. Day in the life of a product manager. Let's talk about what we do as product managers. I had to look up the guy in the top right there, but it's from a film called Office Space, a movie called Office Space. Apparently, he's a guy that goes out and speaks to customers on behalf of the engineering team. We've got a guy packing boxes there, which is what the friends think. We've got the Steve Jobs role, which I'm not sure my mom thinks I'm Steve Jobs, but maybe. The truth is, we probably do a little bit of all of this in any given day, really. Just read these quotes and pop some ideas in the chat about what you think product managers do based on these quotes, some of the activities that we might do. Even some of the mindset things that you get out of these quotes. You've got Marty Kagan there, who runs the Silicon Valley Consulting Group, has written lots of great books. Brian DeHuff, I think, is the CEO, is the CEO of a road mapping tool that we use called AHA as product managers. And then Ian McAllister is a product manager who's worked for the likes of Airbnb, Amazon, Uber. So to be very clear, I believe that product managers should attend every user interview, every site visit, every usability test. As product managers, we get out and we talk to customers all the time. I think that that's quite ambitious for Marty to say that we go to every user interview, every site visit, every usability test. But certainly as product managers, we should be, getting our hands dirty on actually talking to customers all the time, every week, in a range of different ways, which we're going to cover. Brian DeHaff, setting goals. Yeah. So goal first approach. As product managers, we are data led and we are goal driven. So we set goals for ourselves and we try and meet those goals with the products that we release. Yeah, Ian, do whatever is necessary to ship. Yeah, it's all about getting product out in the market, right? We have this saying in product management, release early, release often. And the thing that we do to try and make that happen is be minimalist with what we're shipping and to try and remove barriers. So a big part of your role is to make sure that we're not over engineering things, that we're not building too much scope in that we don't actually require, in order that we can ship as quickly as we can. Here's another couple, Jack Dorsey from Twitter. He's actually working for Square now, I think, CEO for Square. And Eric Ries. So Eric Ries wrote a book probably about 20 years ago now called The Lean Startup, but it's one of the most famous books that presented this idea of kind of agile product management to a mass audience. And it's not just for startups either, it's for people who work for enterprise companies that are what you call intrapreneurs. You're working for a big company, but you're taking the values of agile product management and applying it to whatever it is that you've been tasked with building or looking after one of these companies. 1,000 things that we could be doing, but there are only one or two that are important. And all of these ideas are going to constantly flood what we should be doing. The point here is that I think Steve Jobs was the one that said, prioritizing isn't saying yes to the good idea and no to all of the bad ideas. It's saying yes to a good idea and no to 1,000 other good ideas. Because ideas are kind of everywhere, but actually building the right thing and pursuing the right line that is exactly the right thing for our users' particular needs and requirements based on the nuances of their outlook on life and their expectations is difficult, right? And Eric Ries, every action you're taking in product management, every conversation you have is an experiment. And this is a critical part of the product manager mindset. Everything we do is an experiment. Nothing is irreversible. And everything we do is designed to give us more data, more insight into either validating that we're on the right track towards our goals, or that we should go back and maybe take a step back and see if there's something else that we can do instead, right? So that's building features, launching campaigns, speaking to users. Everything's an experiment. Unfortunately, I didn't have a fascinator to hand to drive home this point, but like I said earlier, we're the wearer of many hats. And a product manager's strength comes from the fact that they can wear these hats, sometimes several at a time, swapping out one for another. Our imperative remains constant, though, to advance company objectives through the performance of the products that we're responsible for. And this mindset underpins that fundamental imperative that even as your hats change, is one of being a strategic partner to every stakeholder we come in contact with at each stage of product identification, ideation, development, ongoing management. The fundamental imperatives of product management stay the same. Team coordinator, business owner, vision holder. As a team coordinator, this is critical because as a product manager, you're not the boss, right? But you are a leader. I think the question earlier that came in where we talked about from the marketing team, how do we engage the marketing team? This is critical here because actually what we're doing is we're ambassadors for a way of working and for the value that we have validated in what we're doing that will serve that user's purpose and will forward the business ambitions and goals. We almost become a cheerleader in some respects, you know, for both things, the way of working and the thing that we're trying to do. So we need to be a leader. Lots of times people talk about CEO, product managers being a mini CEO, which is kind of like, you know, you're looking after many things like the finances, you're looking after, you have to consider legal aspects, you have to make sure that you're on top of the marketing, you're on top of releases, all this sort of stuff. But it's a kind of outdated comparison because it suggests there's a hierarchy, right? That we're at the top of some sort of hierarchy. We're actually, in fact, we're just one of the team, but we are a natural leader. Other people talk about product managers being the conductor of an orchestra because we get lots of people together and, you know, we set out the you know, the music for everyone to play to. I like what the Reed Hastings, the Netflix founder, calls. He says that we're the leader of a jazz band. And the reason for that is because unlike the orchestra who have got, you know, set notes that they're going to play throughout this piece of music that they're going to play, with the jazz band, we've kind of got an idea of what our user wants and what our user's expectations is. But we're not quite sure about exactly what we're going to deliver. We're just going to get lots of talented people together and we're going to, you know, give them the tools to do the job and we're going to deliver something fantastic for the customer. So I like that, it resonates. The other hats we wear, business owner, making sure that we do our job and that the product meets its goals. We do have lots of stakeholder management and, you know, we have to stick to our targets. We have to set realistic targets, things that are achievable, maintainable, right? And then we have to report that back into the business. And then, yeah, vision holder, ensuring that the team knows what we're trying to accomplish and why. And going back to this idea of, you know, we hire smart developers, we hire smart UX people, we set the vision, and then we allow them to go out and build fantastic things, right? Some of the things that you'll be doing as a product manager, business objectives. So yeah, we're team coordinator, business objectives, setting those overarching goals, key performance indicators, objectives and key results. You know, what is it that we're going to achieve in this quarter or this year or this half year, or, you know, whatever it is, in order to move the needle forward for the user and the business. What those high level priorities that we want to see as outcomes. And starting with the outcome rather than the output is a critical way to make sure that you're successful as a product manager. Right? We're not just building because we like the idea of building a feature, we're building because it has a specific outcome that it's targeting. When we take the overall company objectives and the overall company vision, we then need to distill that down into a product strategy. How does the product that we are building help us towards that company strategy? If you think about the company strategy and vision as being the happily ever after, the product strategy is the mechanism, right, that's going to help deliver that and make that happen. And for us as a product manager, again, we might be involved in a very, very small piece of the business, but we will have a role to play in helping that to happen. Or if we're in a small company, you know, the whole product might be our responsibility. So we've got KPIs and a product roadmap. And if we then distill that down even further, we get down to the day-to-day level, the tactics, you know, the things that we're actually going to do in order to make the product strategy a reality, in order to make the company vision a reality. We build what we call a product backlog, all of the different little iterations and features that we're going to build, bugs that we're going to fix. in order to do that, we're building wireframes and prototypes and testing those with customers and going out and speaking to customers and writing up our requirements for the developers in things that we call user stories. And I really think that one thing that you can take away from this is the role of product manager is to be the link between the company strategy and the day-to-day tasks. Right? You are tying everything together. And to be a successful product manager, you need, when you're asked, to be able to explain to people why you're doing a certain thing, why you're taking a certain action, why you're building a certain feature. And you need to be able to explain it in the context of how it moves up the chain and it helps the company to achieve, the organization to achieve the vision that they've set out. Very powerful. We're going to go for a break in a couple of minutes. Let's look at some questions. Linda, could you give us some concrete examples of products you are personally managing? Would be quite interesting since you've worked in different contexts. Yeah, so I mean, for Everpress, you know, my role is sort of head of product and engineering, but we split up the products into creator side products, which is things like our campaign builder, that would be classed as a product. And then we have the marketplace, which is a shop, which is the product. And then we also have another product, which is an ad network recoup product. So basically, this is the way we advertise the things and then allow our customers, our designers, to be able to market their products. And there's a vehicle for allowing them to do that. So we also have a sort of back-end product that we call it, which is for our production houses that we use to be able to come in and order their jobs and organize the jobs and pick things up and then report back to us on, you know, fulfillment and things like that. So we split the product, the overall product, into these kind of streams of features and values. When I worked for HSBC, my product area was the consumer debt products or consumer borrowing products on the public retail banking mobile app and website. So it's taking things like credit cards and overdrafts and then making online user journeys for people to be able to manage them within the mobile app. So my product area was retail borrowing, basically. But, you know, it gets organized in different ways. I've built mobile apps, mobile games, so games for ITV. We've built second screen applications. But then also I've been in other organizations where, like AXA Investment Managers, where the product was the ability to introduce potential people that want to invest with the network of investors. And that service was the product. So lots of different things. Anna Falk, so kind of adding on to the question above, if someone has worked in PM, in CPG, FMGC, fast moving consumer goods, and for 6+ years, how much does this qualify them to work for example of digital products? Yeah, well, very much so. I mean, the thing is that we're going to talk a little bit at the end about how you get into product, but the point is that nobody starts off as a product manager, right? Everybody starts off with a particular set of experiences and skills from the history that they've got. And those specialities and those specialisms, whether that's industry domain knowledge from the industry that you've worked in, or whether it's the particular types of skills that you've built up, makes everybody almost, you know, have their own stepping stone into a role in product. You don't need to worry about whether you've worked with digital products before, because like we said, the things, the mechanisms and the disciplines apply to everything. And there's ways of building up knowledge about how digital apps work and things like that. It's not all that complicated. So the way to do it would be to take what you know, build yourself out like a profile of the specialities that you have, and then use that to go to a company that needs a product manager to someone who's aligned with that. But we'll talk a bit more about that at the end. Exactly, PhD chemist, yeah, fantastic, right? Everybody's got their own story, and there's a lid for every pot in product management because every company needs product managers in one way or another these days. All right, so we're bang on time for where we wanted to be. We're on 40 minutes and we're going to take a 5-minute break. So if there's anything in there that we've talked about so far that, resonated or didn't resonate, just drop some comments into the comments and ask some more questions. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about how we speak to our customers, user interviews, and do a bit more interaction, go from there. So time now is 40 minutes past the hour. We'll see you at 45 minutes past the hour. Okay, thanks very much. Welcome back, everyone. So, a couple of questions that have come in from the first period. So, Bernd said, what are the typical metrics for market fit? Now, the typical metrics for market fit, really does differ from company to company, but generally what we're looking to do is to build a suite of metrics that gives us an idea that we are retaining the existing customer base that we've got, and that we're able to grow our platform and our user base out to what would make sense for us as a business. Now, often when we're product managers, we're looking at total addressable markets and serviceable addressable markets, which is basically concepts of how many people are there that we can target and how many of the people out there that our current product has the ability to onboard, right? So we set ourselves targets based on those, and then we set ourselves sub-metrics, like things like engagement and how many people we can sign up from being, an interested user into an acquired user, into an engaged user. And these are the things that give us a read on whether we've hit product market fit. Often we're going out and looking at industry benchmarks, or we're looking at other products that we've got in our own portfolios to get a sense of that, but it will be very different from company to company. You also mentioned a couple of other things, bug fixes. Yeah, prioritizing based on user needs for a job of the product manager. The thing with basically, we're always looking at user needs, and we see ourselves as really being, advocates for the user at all times. And if there isn't really a user need for something, but there's only a business need, we would have to make a very good argument as to why we're doing something, i.e., it's a regulatory requirement for us to do a certain thing, but it's not in a user's best interests. And even when it is something that is a regulatory requirement, for example, we're going to try and introduce that in a way that at least doesn't damage the proposition for users as much as possible. So certainly prioritizing based on user needs is important to us. Blue Marble, is there a typical size of a PM team end to end? Many roles involved, I guess too many cooks spoils the broth. People talk about 2 pizza teams. The ideal size of a team is that you need to be able to feed your team with 2 pizzas. Otherwise, that team is too big. So when you look at the product team that we showed earlier, sometimes known as a scrum team, these product teams are organized and they're generally between kind of 5 to 9 people. That's the ideal size of a team. If you have more than that, it becomes too difficult to keep everybody on the same page. And if you have less, then you're susceptible to, things happening like people being on holiday and stuff like that. So 7 to 9 people are the ideal teams. Different companies might be organized in different ways. Like not everybody adheres to this idea of, small teams. Back when I first started work, all the front end people would be in one area and all the back end people would be in another area. And basically then there would be like a team of UXs in another place altogether, and they might be like 30 big. But, working in smaller teams generally has more efficiencies. And as a product manager, you should really only be working with one of those teams or 2 max. Joanna, is there a difference between a product owner and a product manager, or is it just a different label which is used within Scrum? Exactly. So product owner and product manager, these are terms which were developed initially by the Scrum framework. And what it was that the product owner was the person that was working with the development teams, this product team that we've got here. And the product manager was generally the person that worked more on the strategic kind of side of things with the business. But again, even though Scrum even makes a role for product owner and product manager, really the best product jobs and the way that you should be looking at your job is to be doing both of the roles and wearing both the hats as one single individual. And most of the time that's called a product manager. But whether you go into a place that you're looking at and you're called a product owner, you're called a product manager, generally speaking, you need to be involved in both the tactical delivery of your product and the strategical planning of the product. Talk a bit more about that later. But great questions. Thank you very much. So I've touched on this a little bit already. And giving you sorry, there's another question which I'm just going to cover before I move on, which is from DB. Could you please compare product managers to system project managers and systems engineers and how to integrate the different aspects? Yeah, so basically a systems engineer would be more somebody from a technical point of view who's involved in kind of the architecture of the application by creating a technical foundation for the product and looking at, again, the feasibility from how do we connect one thing with another thing, whether that's externally or not, and having kind of a role to play in the decision of the technical stack that we use in terms of the technologies and the code bases and things like that. And you will find technical product manager jobs which has a crossover with that and works closely with these people. But what I would expect is someone like a systems engineer to not have the same responsibilities of setting visions and setting targets and setting the strategic kind of ambitions as much as the technical product manager would have in that role. But just like in the same way as with a growth product manager, there'll be a crossover and a collaboration with the marketing team and the growth marketing team, like we talked about earlier. The same with a kind of systems engineer and a technical product manager. So I hope that kind of answers a little bit about that. So we talked here earlier about how we build products. Often you'll have heard this already, these two terms, waterfall and agile. It's often presented as a kind of like a dichotomy between waterfall and agile, like you can do it this way or you can do it this way. It's not exactly true, but it helps for us to be able to learn the differences between the two to help to understand the mindset. And the other thing to say is that waterfall, which is this one you see over here, these stages, discover, design, develop, test, where we finish one section, then we move on to the other one. Sometimes seen as a dirty word again, it's like a waterfall approach. Sometimes it's necessary to work in this way. For instance, if we're building a product which we can't have any impact on that product after it's been released to the market, we can't tweak it in any way. It's a big risk. So we need to make sure that we do lots and lots of due diligence in the early stages of our discovery process and our design process to make sure that all of these features that we build and release are definitely what the customer wants and what they need, and that we've considered all of the requirements. We've not built any bugs into it, right? For anyone old enough that remembers having to, buy software in a box, whether that was a PC game or, something like Microsoft Office, where you go down to the local shop to buy this software. Well, at that time we couldn't update the software after it was released. So it's necessary to work in a waterfall manner. But as the advent of the internet increased, we came up with this idea of agile, right? Which is being able to work in these smaller cycles of what we call build, measure, learn. So instead of trying to understand all of the potential requirements up front, what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a hypothesis for some kind of product that answers a user's need. And even if it doesn't answer a user's need, it enables us to release the product to the market, get live feedback from customers on what we've released, and set us up on another cycle of discovery, test, design, develop. Release early, release often. And the benefit of this is that it's very difficult in the waterfall way to not make mistakes. And a lot of the time, those mistakes are very, very costly, and they can even, be the death of either an entire startup business or certainly something whereby we struggle to explain to our stakeholders and our boss why we've spent 2 years and a whole lot of developer time and money building something that customers don't really need because we didn't really understand the user's needs, right? So what we do is we try to release something quickly as we can to validate those assumptions and give us that talk point, that interaction point with the customer. We call this agile. It means releasing all the time, if not every, sometimes every day, rather than once every 6 months or once every year, like in a waterfall function. And these days, the agile methodology can be applied to physical products as well. If you think about like a Tesla car, the way that that car performs and the calibration of anything from the suspension to the brakes and the acceleration is all a result of data coming from the car, going back into some data warehouse, and then all of the data, not just on the way it's being driven, but the ecosystem around the car, feeding in an input set of data, and the output then coming back in and feeding another set of inputs, which is change the way that these things behave based on that data. Build, measure, learn. So agile can be applied pretty roundly now, but not in all cases. As a product manager, you may find yourself working in either one of these different frameworks, not frameworks, but methodologies, but essentially your job is the same. Always starts with discovery in one way or another, whether we're doing all of that discovery up front or whether we're continuously doing discovery, which is what we like to do as product managers. We always start with a discovery process, making sure we're solving the right problem, not necessarily the most obvious one. But yeah, 6 in 10 corporate initiatives fail, 9 in 10 startups fail. Why do they fail? No product market fit. Biggest reason is because we don't talk to users. In the discovery process, we spend too long building before we get in front of customers, waterfall, no user input or feedback loops that can make a difference, right? By the time we realize we've got it wrong, it's too late. Does anyone actually own one of these? Unless you're a tour guide, probably not, or maybe the police, I think, have them these days, but then they struggle when it gets to like stairs or something like that. Yeah, there's no user need being solved. And when it's finally unveiled, the buzz dies down pretty immediately, right? And then what you end up with is without the ability to scale. You initially onboard lots of users to this cool new thing, but you don't have that feasibility for the scale into the larger market because you're not really solving a user need. It's more based on a novelty. Chris asked for the source of the 9 to 10 startups. We'll make a note of that and we'll provide that in the notes. The hardest words to string together in the English language. What are we thinking? I don't know. It's really difficult, but the great thing about being a product manager and having this set of mechanisms and this mindset of validation and going out and accepting the fact that we have biases and that we take pride in validating what we think we know, is it gives us the ability to say, I don't know, with confidence and without the idea that somebody's going to attack us because they think that, us as the product manager, we should know all of the answers. The methodology allows for saying, I don't know, and gives us mechanisms for going out and constantly asking for the, asking our customers to feedback on that, right? So our discovery toolkit gives us that license. And getting to know the user is one of the most important things that you can do as a product manager. You should be the voice of the customer, and you should be the expert on the exact makeup of your target audience, right? And of the people that use your product, your user persona, we call them. We try to know the ins and outs of that user persona in terms of the goals and ambitions, the other products that they use, why those incumbent products in the market aren't quite solving the problem well enough for the particular nuances of this set of users that we are going to solve the problem for. Because when we really understand the user and we're able to advocate for them internally within our organization, that's when we can build a product to start with, at least, that gives us a foothold in a market which might already be saturated by competitors. One of the biggest things is that people always say, well, there's already so many people solving this problem. Why can I build something to disrupt that market? But there's always going to be a subset of users that aren't happy with the incumbent solutions. And your job is to validate whether that set of users initially is enough feasibly to give you an addressable market that's worth chasing down. Once you get past that early adopter stage, you can then move into thinking about how can we scale this product out to reach more of the mass market and to adopt more of that market share, right? So that's why it's important. Bit of a lull here, but basically the point is that get out of the building, right? So as product managers, we need to go and talk to our customers. And certainly, even though our stakeholders have very great experience, very awesome experience, they are not our users, right? We need to go out and speak to customers. How we do that? Customers, product managers, we are all the time, lots of different ways, passive and active interactions with users, the active interviews, surveys, focus groups, the passive task analysis and product data analysis. And it's a constant part of the job. We're going to have a look right now at some of the ways that we interview customers. All the way throughout the product building stage, you are talking directly to customers. At the start of that discovery period, you're looking to understand the customer's needs in a sort of generalized way, and to understand what the problems they have with those incumbent solutions. As we start building products, we want to be able to start getting customers' feedbacks on what we're building to make sure that we're going down the right track and those sort of things. And then even when we get right towards releasing customers, we put our products that we've built in front of them to make sure that we've dotted the I's, crossed the T's, and we can get the release notes tone right, all of that type of stuff. So get comfortable with interviewing. This is a great little framework for questioning. More powerful, what if, how, why? Less powerful, when, which, who, where, what. We're trying to avoid questions which give us a yes, no answer. Because the biggest thing that we want to do is to be able to allow customers to elaborate, right? Take us on a journey, tell us a story. Get your reactions out. Which of these is the better question? Would you like to be able to control your home's temperature through an app? Tell me more about how you control temperature within your home. Yeah, universally, everyone's going for that. Anyone want to post why in the chat? It's open-ended. What's the problem? Yeah, open question. Maybe they don't even want, right? It shouldn't be an app. Maybe it should just be a temperature gauge on the wall, right? Maybe it should be something else. We can't lead our biases into thinking that the customer wants an app, because we'll forget about some other means of understanding that, right? Which of these is the better question? When did you order the last time you went? What did you order the last time you went to the cafeteria? What do you usually order from a cafeteria? It's a tough one, this. Yeah. Couple of people going for the other one, and I don't think it's a bad question, the other one, second one B, but I think the other one is better because the problem is that a lot of the time when people are speaking to us in interviews, they don't actually tell us the truth, right? If I ask people how many times you usually go to the gym, they'll say, oh, 2 or 3 times a week. Yeah, I'm really good at going to the gym. If I say, how many times did you go to the gym last week? They'll say, oh yeah, well, actually, I had a lot to do at work, and the dog was ill, and I wasn't able to get there last week. Right? When we ask users about specific instances, we get the reality rather than maybe what they want us to hear. Okay, last one. What are your frustrations on the checkout process on this site? How do you feel about the checkout process on this site? Yeah, everyone universally going for that. Avoid the leading question, right? Again, users will tell you what they think that you want to hear, right? Maybe they're not so frustrated about the checkout, but if you say what are your frustrations with the checkout process, people will try to answer something. They'll try and come up with some kind of response, right? But actually, maybe the thing is that we can say, how do you feel about the checkout process on this site? And they'll say, yeah, no, that's fine. What I really need you to focus on is the discovery of the t-shirts, because that bit's super difficult. Right? Let's get them talking about what matters to them rather than what we think matters to them. Don't assume what they mean, understand what they mean. Always follow up your questions with something else. Even if you think that they've said a lot, can you say more about what you said earlier? What does it look like? What do you mean by? Let people elaborate, let people think about something. The reason why this is important is because even when people are kind of got a sense that they're being interviewed, they always think that they preempt the answers. What we want them to do is to delve actually into real experience and real thoughts, to come back with us with some other things, right? So always follow up. This one's great. Like, what do you do to currently deal with? The thing as product managers is what we're usually trying to do is we're never ever solving really for a brand new need, and users will always have some kind of solution to the requirement that they have, whether that's actually another product or whether they're hacking a different product or service to do the job for them. They're usually finding some way to deal with the problem. It's just not ideal. So if we can get them to tell us how they're currently trying to solve the problem, we can analyze that and find the ways that we can make an intervention into that sequence and either release something new or make a tweak in order to solve it better and onboard the customer over to our solution rather than how they're dealing with it right now. Silence is golden. You would be amazed. It's super uncomfortable, but at the end of every question, just say nothing for a little while. Invariably, the customer will be so distressed about the fact that, not distressed, uncomfortable about the fact that there's a silence there, they'll reach into their mind and they'll carry on talking. And now, again, that pre-rehearsed thing is off the chart, and now we're getting into real stuff. Oh yeah, now I remember last time I checked out, PayPal wasn't working properly and I didn't have my bank card, so I just sacked the whole thing and I didn't do it, right? And finally, is there anything else you want us to know? Always great to get the customer to carry on talking, right? So what we're going to do, we've got 20 minutes left, we're right bang on time. We're going to do a little exercise now. Yeah, your mission is to find the truth, not build a case for what you want to do, right? This is the critical thing about interviewing. We're not there to validate. We are there to validate what we think we know, but we need to find the truth. We're not looking for building a case for what we want to do, right? And it's very difficult. So yeah, activity, user interviews. Take a read of this. You're a product manager looking to build an online lunch bidding platform to reduce the choice overload of online food delivery for busy professionals. The idea is that users will enter their lunch preference, set the maximum price they will pay, and local restaurants bid to make and deliver that user's lunch. Okay, so our boss has given us an idea here, the stakeholder. What we're going to do is we're going to try and validate that by asking some user questions. So let's just take a screenshot of that and I'll pop it into the chat. What you're going to do is you're going to prepare a question guide for your interview. Keep it simple, but focus on validating your assumptions, understanding your users' existing behaviors, identifying pain points, goals, and desires. So basically, just come up with a few questions that you think are going to help you to do this. Find out these things. Again, I'm going to post the screenshots of these into the chat. Remember this. And then what we're going to do, instead of partnering up, because we've got quite a few people here today, we're going to get 2 volunteers to come up and ask the questions. So if you want to be a volunteer, pop your name into the chat, and then Eli's going to choose a couple of people. And for everyone else, just spend a few minutes coming up with some questions. Now, how do I pop these screenshots into the chat? Let's see. Can I do that?
All right, we're ready for the exercise. We have the 2 volunteers that want to join the stage and work with Mark through the exercise. Let us know on the chat and we'll get this going. Who's interested in participating? And everyone exercise on their own. You can do your own process, your own questions. But if you want to participate live, let us know.
I'm struggling to put the screenshots into the chat. I don't know if that's something that I can do. So I'll just leave this on the screen for now. But basically, just come up with some questions using the what if, how, why mechanisms. We'll have to.
If you want to share the screenshots, I can add them as a link. If you send it to me via Slack, I can create a Google Drive folder and then share it.
Great idea, Eli. There we go. I've sent them to you now on Slack.
All right.
And just in the meantime, while people are coming up with the questions, I'm just going back to the questions in the messages. So Linda said, how do we find and recruit interviews? So great question. So basically what you want to be doing is doing, this obviously it depends on what you're trying to learn, but generally speaking, you want a mixture of existing customers and people who are brand new to the brand and, you know, haven't encountered you before. Again, if you're building something for an existing set of customers, then obviously we're going to focus on finding particular people there. If you're looking for an acquisition device, then, you know, it makes more sense to find people who, you know, have never encountered you before. But generally speaking, it's a mixture of both. So when we are looking for people for Everpress to interview, we try to find people who are experiencing the problem that we've hypothesized they have, and then we try to reach them at the point that they're experiencing the problem. All right. So I'll give you an example of how we did that with HSBC. We used to take the apps that we were built into a branch and then wait for a customer to go up to the help desk and say, hey, I need help setting up an overdraft. And then the person working in the branch would say, okay, great. Can we have a sit down? And by the way, we've got our colleagues here who are from the app team who are also trying to build a solution for that. And, you know, they'd like to ask you a few questions. Right? Why do we try to reach people when they're experiencing the problem? Is because they give us honest and open feedback, right? And it's real. They're not trying to remember and getting it a bit wrong and then thinking what they want to hear. We're dealing with real life solutions. So similarly, we were working on a feature to allow people to block their credit cards. So when they lose their credit card and replace the credit card. Well, we just went down to the call centers and listened into people phoning up asking to replace their card, so that we could understand, not just what the customer needs to do, but in this instance, the fact the customer didn't actually know that the card was lost. So we're not going to put a block on the card and forever. We're going to put a temporary block on the card and give the customer a chance to go and find the card. And it's just little things like that that enables you to build a product that stops the customer from, having to stop a card just because they've left it on the kitchen table. Right? Everyone's happy, bank, customer, and so forth. There are all sorts of services that you can use as well to go and find people online and things like that. A lot of the time, just stopping people in the street or on Reddit or something like that, right? Okay, another couple of minutes to write some questions. Have we had any volunteers yet? I don't think we have we? Who's going to be a
Not yet.
volunteer?
The drive seems to be working.
Great.
I can jump in. If you need volunteers, I'll jump in. We need one more. If there's two, I'll step down, but maybe the audience is writing the questions. Let's give it a minute or two.
Yeah. Linda, would you like to be the volunteer? You've had some great questions so far.
And being an anthropologist, like, that should be interesting.
Great.
All right.
Okay, so let us know when you're ready, Linda, and you're going to interview Eli with your questions. And feel free to go off script as well. That's the great thing about when you're interviewing customers. We don't necessarily have to stick to this rigid script of exactly what we ordained before we went into the interview. Sometimes we get more interesting information when we react to what the interviewee is telling us. Three more minutes from Linda. Okay, any more questions while we're waiting for Linda? Or Eli, do you think maybe you can talk to us a little bit about the General Assembly? No, I'll tell you what, sorry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the different pathways for 3 minutes that you can use to get into a product management role while Linda is thinking about some questions. And then we'll finish off with the GA pathways there. We kind of covered this at the earlier on within the session. To become a product management, there isn't one single route to getting into the role. The way to do it is, if you want to be a product manager, is to become a domain expert in something. Because when you're looking to build a product for a business, the biggest thing that you need to understand is, the ins and outs and the nuances of that industry and that user base. So the way to transition from whatever role you're in at the moment into a product management role is to find either something like a business analyst job or a junior product manager job, or even if your domain knowledge is actually that great and that specialist, straight into a product manager role, but basically within that realm that you're already an expert in. And what you also have to do is consider your current skill set by saying, if you're somebody that's great at the user interviewing side of things and understanding users, then go and find a role where an organization where those particular disciplines are more valued. If you're the type of person who is actually a bit more technical and you're good at understanding the architecture of systems, go for a more technical role in something a bit more complex, like a software company, or like a business to business kind of technology company or something like that. It's all about finding your own path through, but just know that nobody is the same, right? Business, design, engineering, product managers come from all different types of places. once you're involved in product management, the actual product management disciplines like going out and organizing roadmaps and organizing backlogs and all of those types of things, those things are easy enough to learn. It's all about making sure that you understand the mechanisms of product management, the validation, and that you've got the kind of the mindset that works with that. There's a list of things here that can be interesting, can be useful for product managers. So it's almost a little bit like going through and highlighting the things that you've already got some experience with and building your profile based on that. And then if there's anything that you don't really know about that's on this list, like for instance, you haven't done much data and analytics or something like that, going away, doing a workshop with General Assembly, looking at some YouTube courses, having a go at some data analytics software, even trying to do some of this stuff within your existing organization so that you can just give yourself that experience. And then when you come to talk to other people about it, you can say that, you might not have necessarily had a world of experience, but you've had a go. Combine that with your domain knowledge, and that's how you're going to get yourself into a role. Do you need to code? No. It's helpful to have technological to have an understanding of technology. But like I said earlier, it's very accessible these days to be able to come away to these workshops to learn the basics of something, and that's enough. Also, you can go away and you can practice doing a little bit of SQL coding, which is structured querying language for building up queries on the data. That's very useful to have as a product manager. So maybe that's a great place to start. You can do a bit of HTML coding. But again, that's just to give you the kind of confidence that these things are more accessible than you might think. What we really need to understand is when you go into a particular role, the nuances, I love that word, but the nuances of the specific setup that company has and the challenges that it presents and the opportunities that it presents for you to be able to solve the users and business needs. It all comes back to that. Okay, so Linda's ready. Linda, do you want to come off mic and ask Eli your questions?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm not sure whether I got your point, but let's see. So Eli, so look, we're working on a task. So we want to offer lunch choices very easily to customers. And the question I would like to ask you is, when you're hungry around noon, tell me what is important for you when considering ordering lunch.
Right. So I usually look for light lunch options like a salad or soup and like a sandwich combo. So if I see that the restaurant I'm looking at in Google Maps or in Uber Eats has those type of combinations, then I go for it. If not, I just move to the next option.
So what is the most important aspect for you when we were talking about several options? Is it maybe the menu? Is it the price? Is it the time you will get your food, or anything else? Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yes. So the most important thing for me is that there's pictures that I can see what the menu is like, because each restaurant, I've had experiences where a restaurant could say, "This is our Caesar salad," and it was not really that salad, or it's their interpretation of a Caesar salad. And so pictures help a lot. I might go out of my way and go to Yelp and see if there's pictures there from users, because then the users or the clients or the consumers, they were there. It was a real experience. It's not like a photoshopped picture of a salad. That for me is the most important thing. I think after that, yes, price. And I expect the restaurant is going to have ability to do the salad right on time. Like if I need delivery, that might be secondary, but not a big deal, because if they cannot deliver right away, I'll go to the next option.
Okay. So maybe one last, like just to check whether I got you correctly. So for you, it's important to get what you've ordered, right? Could it be?
Yes.
Could we sum this? Okay, okay, and yeah. Responding to that last resume, is there anything else you would like to add? Something I didn't ask you in that short interview.
I mean, it's always challenging when I use the filters on the apps of I want Thai food, or I want Indian food, or I want Mexican food. Sometimes by using these apps a lot, I've discovered that if you use the filters, maybe the restaurants on the other side are not using the filters correctly, so you're missing out on options. I don't know. If someone solves for that, great, like amazing, because I try to be very organized in how I search. Maybe I'm missing out on options because the restaurant didn't choose the category right.
Yeah, okay. Got you. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. So really, that was amazing, because it takes a lot to come up when you're not expecting to come up and speak in front of 40 or 50 people or so, to come up and do an interview off the cuff. So fantastically well done, Linda. And you did all the great things, right? You started off with when you're hungry around noon, tell me what's important for when you're ordering lunch. So you were looking specifically at this window of time, which is what you're interested in for the people that are ordering at lunchtime, which was great, rather than just when you're ordering food. Fantastic, specific. But then you was open, tell me what's important to you. Right, great, fantastic. And then Eli started off by talking about how, light lunch and things like that, which is great. These things are important. But, you just asked him to elaborate. Right, and then he came back with all of this stuff about pictures and things like that. That's super important. He's an image-driven person, and the visuals of the food are going to be super important in helping him make that decision. Okay, great. It's something that we found out about our customer. And then, ask a couple more questions, and then anything else you'd like me to know. And Eli gave us a little bit more information. I think the great thing was that you didn't impose yourself on the interview. You let Eli talk. You gave him the space to talk, and we've walked away with some great stuff. So well done. Fantastic. Okay, so these are the kind of exercises we do with General Assembly when we're in our courses. And generally speaking, our courses are kind of 1/3 hearing somebody like me talk, 1/3 having a discussion, and 1/3 doing exercises in breakout rooms. So I'm going to hand over to Eli now to tell you a little bit more about how that works, just to close out what we're doing here.
Thank you, everyone, for your time, interest in going through this class on product management. We're really proud. And there's a few more resources, links you can get access to. Let's move to the next slide, please. But before we do that, please share your feedback. The reason why this feedback is actionable for us is we're updating our content all the time. Our courses are 3 months long, 10 weeks long. So we don't need to wait for like a whole year to update them. We update them in real time, and we use your feedback for that. Please share your feedback. You'll get the link to the slides. You'll get the recording in case you, and the link, let me paste it on the chat right now, but whenever you have a chance, please do share your feedback. And let's move to the next slide. There's 2 more things I want to share with you all. I think the link just needs to be pasted again. Here we go. There's a link. What can happen if you want to learn more, if you're curious about how GA can help you with your tech skills and your career goals? Students usually take one of these 3 paths. Workshops are good for learning a basic concept. There are 2 to 6 hours across 2 days, so you can work and study. And if you want to do a more of a hands-on approach, really go deep into a specific skills, you can do a short course. These are usually for anyone that's already working in a tech-related field and just wants to add a skill with enough depth that you built a real-life project throughout your short course. These are live online with time zones all over the world, so don't worry about that. But they're great if you want to get up to skill on your job or you're looking for a promotion. People usually take those short courses. And then we have the boot camps, which are a longer commitment. A boot camp is a career change program. No matter what background you're coming from, we've had lawyers become software engineers. We have food runners become UX designers, social workers becoming UX designers. And these programs involve creating 3 to 5 real life projects, 450 or so hours of instruction, career coaching to help you land your job, prepare for interviews, do salary negotiation and all that. So it depends on what you're looking for. There are different paths. And if you're curious about it, check us out. Go to the GA website, check us out on LinkedIn, reach out. We're ready to talk to you all. By the way, admissions, it's not like college. It's not a fail pass exam. We are exposing you to tech skills exercises, like the one we did today, because we want to know if you're in that mindset, if you feel comfortable and excited about thinking as a product manager. And the next slide, please. You guys have here a list of resources. If you want to read more, you want to hop on more free events, we have those all the time. Go check us out. Take your next step. This is like buying a car. You drive it, you go for a test, and if you like it, you do more. Test drive your career. Test drive some tech skills. We'll be there to talk to you about it. That's it on our side. Mark, any last closing comments, any advice for the audience on their next steps?
No, just if you're interested in following up on a career in product management, believe me, there are entries out there in all places, and it doesn't necessarily start with having a job that is called product manager, right? You can start all the time. Start with doing things within the organization you're working with at the moment. Build a hobby app. Just start applying for some stuff and look at different pathways into the industry, because it's super rewarding. If you enjoy this type of work, then I think that it's something I'd advise everyone to look into. If anyone's got any more questions, I'm happy to stay behind. I can stay behind now for another few minutes, and I'm sure Eli can as well. But other than that, amazing. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today.